this next section, we're going to be talking about something that may shock you as an audience. Dr. Janowitz explains to us how the master control system of our entire health is the nervous system. Can you please explain this concept to us? I know that it's probably mind-blowing to a lot of people to hear that.
Yeah, I remember when I was actually a child, around 9 years old, I was in my chiropractor's office, and the light bulb moment for me was this one particular moment. I remember where I was. I'm sure some of you've had an experience where you've had this kind of moment in your life, because life is about the moments, right? And I'm in room 4 of my chiropractor's office, and I was into electricity. I was into like building things and making a light bulb or a bell go off, and not nearly as complicated as the computer circuitry that people can do now with robotics, but it was the robotics at that time. But I was into electricity, and there was this, my chiropractor, Dr. Elliott, he showed me this poster, and he explained, the way the body works and how, the brain controls the entire body. And it does that by sending information, or literally electricity, down through the spinal cord, which goes out to, branches out through the nerves out of your spine to every muscle in your back, right? Affecting your back, but can travel down your arms, can travel down your legs, also go up towards your head. But in addition, and what's incredible is that the nerves also feed and give life to every single internal organ in your body. So everything is connected, is hardwired essentially through our nervous system. And so, we tend to think about the heart being so important, right? I mean, you can't live very long without your heart beating, right? But if that nerve was cut, then that heart would stop. And so the nervous system controls that, or your lungs taking in air. I mean, we all know the power of oxygen in our body, right? But if the nerves were cut to our lungs, it wouldn't work. So the nervous system is really the master system. It's the first system to be created 18 days after conception. So one of the first organ system made when you were in your mom at 18 days old was the spinal cord, and from that budded the organs. So it really is the master system. So when you look at health, what you want to do is say, how is my master system working first, and make sure that the master system has no interference. And then you look at all those other areas too. So it's really looking at health from an inside-out approach versus so much of today's society is, what can I take from the outside in? What latest drug or supplement or thing? Or if you look at things on a higher level, when you look at the synergy of life, it's like, what is the next shiny object I need to buy, right? Or the next car, or the next watch, or whatever it is. We try to look at things of how can we get our needs met from the outside in, when really it's about from the inside out. And of course, with your health, it's the master system of the nervous system.
It seems like we should have learned this at a very young age, and it just was skipped.
It's so true. I talk about this with all my new patients, and a lot of them go, why didn't my doctor tell me this? And why am I hearing this at 40 years old? Right? We know, we might talk about symptoms later on, but we know that symptoms are a sign, and we talked about dis-ease or lack of ease, and a lot of symptoms are actually a dis-ease. A headache is most of the time caused by a dis-ease or a lack of proper function. Reflux is oftentimes a lack of proper function. You get enough damage to your stomach, well, then you might develop ulcers or problems with your esophagus. But a lot of this becomes a problem of that. And so a lot of times people are having these experiences of these symptoms or body signals in different parts of their body, but no one is linking it to the central nervous system. I'll give you another example. A lot of times people will have back pain, and then they might not realize that it's also affecting the nerves in your lower back, affect your bowel, bladder, and sex organs. They don't realize that their bowels, like they've been having constipation. They never even saw the correlation of their constipation and their back pain. Or their bladder, now they're getting up at night to go urinate, and now that's affecting sleep, which is causing a whole other host of issues. Or they might not realize that they're having their sciatica, and that can also be affecting all those areas. So it's really about saying, how can we look at the master system, take a step back, look for patterns, and then it gives you a better chance of knowing how to take care of the body holistically.
Right. On the flip side, we've been taught to focus on the symptoms and isolate them.
That's right.
In turn, we look for Band-Aids, medications, to just cover up the symptoms, which we know what effect that causes. Then you have to take medication to cover the symptoms of those medications.
It becomes a downward spiral. And I get it, because people want to, look, all of us want to feel good, right? We want to feel good, but we want to make sure that we're feeling good, not at the expense of our health.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right?
And so part of not being learned or not being taught about the master system being, what controls our health overall is the fact that our bodies do have the innate ability to heal themselves.
That's right. That's right. So, in chiropractic school, they taught that as innate intelligence, which is the wisdom within the body. And you can look at it as the Holy Spirit. I mean, there's a number of ways that you can look at it. I'm less concerned with what we call it as concerned with what it is, right? And so if we had here a cadaver with us at the moment laying down on the floor here, right? Same parts as us. You dissected the body, which was an amazing thing to do, was to do human dissection. And you see all the intricacies, and you can see that. First of all, what blew me away is when I took anatomy, is when my faith in God multiplied exponentially to go there, to create that amazing,
Right.
To create a human, and to have that is just such the intricacies and the complexities, and how everything then is coordinated. But the difference between a cadaver, same parts, and us is, in chiropractic, what they call an innate intelligence or inner wisdom, right? And so it's this energy that animates us through life. And, a lot of times our healthcare system is not really honoring and recognizing the body's ability to heal, that same power that made our body from a sperm and an egg in combination, that perfect sperm and that perfect egg in that perfect time, right? To create life. That same power that created life and made us in our mother for 40 weeks is the same power that doesn't leave us throughout life. And I think we've kind of lost touch with that. And it takes a nice reminder to say, look, your body is designed to work right. Your body is designed to heal. The key is to remove the interference, thus preventing you from fully expressing life. So it's not so much what we do to our bodies and to our health or to our life, it's what we don't do. It's by removing the interference and then allowing the natural progression of our lives to be expressed.
So to summarize to those that are not very familiar with chiropractic care, as a chiropractor, what are the 3 principles that you focus on when treating your patients?
Sure. So Palmer, who started chiropractic in 1895, I mean, he was really ahead of the curve in his thought process. He called it the 3 T's, or the 3 T's were the cause of kind of disease. He called it traumas, toxicity, and thoughts. And so another way of looking at it is you can have different stressors. So people talk about that they have stress. When a lot of times people are speaking of stress, Jenny, they're talking about emotional stresses, right? And right now in today's society, stress is just at such a high. And so if you're dealing with stress right now, you are not alone. The world is creating a lot of stress for people, a lot of anxiety, and that's emotional stress. So that's the thought category. Then the second category is toxicity, or the biochemistry. And so you have the chemical aspect, and that can be impacted by the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the food that we eat, good or bad, can impact us positive or negative, the medication we take, which might be able to help one thing, but then of course it causes other reactions in the body, and those are called side effects. The prescribed medication and the label purpose is the actual effect that's called the desired effect, but it doesn't just cause that, it causes all the other ones, and they just label those as side effects, right? So you have that, so that's the chemical, but you could also impact biochemistry by nutrition and other avenues there. And then you have the structural aspect. And so trauma is, how does it affect our physical or our structural aspect? So chiropractic really goes to, at its bare essence, it really goes to impacting the structure of the body. You know, I talk to a lot of engineers that are patients, and you know, structure, they understand that structure and function are married, right? So if the structure of something is off, then it will not function right. I mean, if this building had a poor foundation, then there'd be cracks and fissures on the walls. Right. But if the structure of our spine, of our frame is off, then it's going to affect how the body functions. So one simple thing we do in the practice is simple but powerful, is we have a patient stand on 2 weight scales, and the weight scales, your weight should be equal between 1 and 2 pounds. And what happens is we oftentimes see that the weight can be off by 5, 6, 10, at some cases even over 20 pounds. And what happens is then the body starts to compensate and then cause kinks in there, which then impacts the nervous system, which then again talks about all things we talked about earlier, affects all the different parts of the body. So when I'm looking at a patient, and what I encourage the listeners to do too, is that you find doctors on your team, and we talk about this later on in the people section, so it's a little preview, but you want to find doctors that are covering all these bases, because you can be so much focused on stress management. You could be doing meditation every day, but if you're not fueling yourself right, and your structure is all off, you can meditate morning, noon, and night. It's gonna give you still a limited results. Or you can work on your diet all the time. Watch everything you eat, but if there's not good nerve supply to extract that food from the stomach and absorb it through the intestines, it's not gonna have the full-blown effect. You can work on the structure on the other side, and if you have a lot of stress and it's constantly causing tightness in either your neck or your shoulders or your lower back, well, you're gonna miss the boat too. So you have to look at all those areas to really address that holistically.
So this is a big one. I'm sure you probably get a lot. I know I hear it a lot as an excuse from people as to why they may have poor health. They like to blame it on genetics. So do you get that question a lot? Hey doc, it's in my genes, I can't help it.
All the time, all the time. You know, my parents had it and grandparents had it, so it's like, well, almost like a why bother, right? And so there's this really amazing science called epigenetics. And what it really says at its essence is that your genetic expression can be impacted by your lifestyle. And so just because your parents might have had some sort of a cancer, right, doesn't mean that it is a death sentence for you. And it's scary because we're very emotionally attached to what we experience as a child. So if we see one of our parents suffering from an issue or a grandparent, then we can start to really identify with that. We talked about identity.
Right.
And so epigenetics says, you know, it's nature and nurture. So you want to think about your genes as almost like your genetic code is like a loaded gun, and it is fired by your lifestyle or not fired by your lifestyle. And so what you can do is you can look at life in 2 ways, Jenny. You can say, oh my God, my parents had this issue, my grandparents have this issue, I'm destined for that, so be it. And you know, that can be a self-fulfilling prophecy in essence in that way. Or you can say, because I have these things, I have to work harder. I have to take a personal responsibility in my health in terms of, you know, taking the action steps. So getting the knowledge, but also taking the action to say, this is what I have to do. It's like, you know, because of my own scoliosis, I have to work harder than people that don't have that to do simple activities like maintaining gravity, that when someone has a good alignment and they don't have scoliosis, they don't have to do. So you can use it to be either a victim or you can use it as something to be a fuel to empower you. It really goes on to how you approach it in your mindset.
Right. And so this brings us back to the synergistic effect. The nervous system, yes, is the master system of our bodies, but we need to couple that with our mindset and decisions in the lifestyle choices that we make.